Diablo 4 is amazing, and I'm so happy I can finally say that. I've been looking forward to this game for such a long time, and there's been a bunch of games over the last few years that have kind of disappointed me. But now I've got a chance to play the closed beta, and I absolutely love it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all of the things that I love about it, as well as a few things that I don't love about it. If you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to chat about the game, chat about your experiences with it, let me know in a comment, or come join one of the live streams right here on YouTube. So let's start with the positives. We'll start with the pros. And one of the things that's going to strike you as soon as you load into Diablo 4 is that this game is absolutely gorgeous. Of course, Blizzard have always been masters of doing cinematics, and this game is no different. The cinematics are breathtaking. The characters in particular look amazing, and some of the cool sort of effects within it, the sort of spell type stuff I guess you'd call it, look awesome in it. But once you get into the game engine itself looks absolutely amazing. Every environment looks awesome, and there's some really varied environments, even right at the beginning. So like when you were playing Diablo 3, you would be in like one type of area for a very long time, and you'd see the same kind of tile sets, the same sort of backgrounds for a long time. In this, you're going from environment to environment and constantly seeing something new. So like all of the towns look different from each other. All of the dungeons look incredibly different from each other. Whenever you go underground, whenever you're delving into something, there's like a little bit of environmental storytelling and just sort of like, okay, what sort of place is this? What's been going on here? And I've been absolutely loving it. Everything also feels really kind of tangible and authentic. Kind of connected to that, the monster design is better than I think it's ever been in a Diablo game before. For me, Diablo games have always been a little bit goofy when it comes to monster design. Like a lot of the monsters are kind of erring on the side of a little bit funny. Whereas Diablo 4, they look really menacing. They look like they would fit right in with a horror film. So there's a lot of enemies in the first area, in the part that we get to play in the beta, that are callbacks to enemies in Diablo 2, but they just look so much more believable, and they look so much more intimidating. Like all of their flesh is very like sinewy, and they look really aggressive in their animations. And the gore effects when you get rid of them are similarly very, very impressive. Like occasionally an attack will just like lop an enemy's head off, or you'll rush through them and slice them clean in half. The audio is also just amazing. Like, I love it, I can't fault it at all. The music is suitably creepy and grim and dark and gothic, and while we were waiting on that queue for an incredibly long time, I just let the music loop in the background because I didn't even notice where it looped round, but it was just so easy to listen to. Something that I think people were quite worried about are the MMO aspects. So in this Diablo, when you're out in the open world, you will come across other players just running around, killing monsters. They can kill the same monsters as you, doing sometimes like little world events that will spawn where it's like you've got to defend a couple of villages for a while when there's wolves attacking, or you've got to fight a particularly difficult enemy or something like that. And you can just team up together. You don't have to join a party or anything like that to fight them all together. I thought this was absolutely great. Like, it was so cool just seeing other people, seeing what they could do. Sometimes I'd be in a fight and I was like, oh, this isn't going very well, and then a couple of other players would turn up and help, and then we'd easily overcome it, and then we all get our own unique rewards. You don't have to worry about someone stealing your stuff or anything like that. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun, and so many times we'd had some sort of interaction like that where it's just randomly we'd ended up doing the same fight together, and then we'd partied up and we'd gone into a dungeon together or something. If you just want the kind of solo experience, you can just ignore people in the open world, and then when you're going off to do your dungeons and your cellars and stuff, then you won't see any other players at all. So it's not something that I think could really get in the way, but it's something that to me enhances the open world. It makes it a lot more exciting, and it makes it feel a bit more real that, you know, there are other adventurers going about doing their own thing, and they can help you. It's also nice that you don't have to talk to people to get stuff done, so it's very easy to party up with people because really it's only going to be an advantage. If you want to chat to them, there is voice chat, there is text chat, you can talk to them as much as you want, but if you just want to group up with someone so you've got a bit more firepower, that's absolutely fine too. One of my favourite things about the game are the ability builds. So I've only been playing as a rogue so far, and to be honest, I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I think that will probably be my least favourite class. But setting up those builds using those skill points has been so much fun. So there was one moment where I picked up a new item that said it will daze enemies that hit if they're already vulnerable. So then I could go into my skill menu and find all of the abilities that would make enemies vulnerable, and I found that there was one basic attack I had that could make enemies vulnerable as long as I'd spent about half of my energy, and then there was another attack that would make use of that vulnerability, and if I hit an enemy that was vulnerable, it would give me health back. And then I found another ability that when I hit enemies that were vulnerable, it would spread that vulnerability to nearby enemies. So because I'd picked up one piece of gear that had this status modifier interaction on it, I could then set up an entire build that revolved around trying to spread this status effect, and then it would heal me, it would daze enemies. It was absolutely awesome, and it changed my playstyle because now I was trying to burn through energy so I could make enemies vulnerable, then build up my energy again so I could start spreading that vulnerability. That was really cool, and this is very low level. Like, I was like level 8 or something when that happened. Then later on, I went into a dungeon and I was fighting this big werewolf thing, and my build was this one that I had that was all about close attacks. I was just using daggers. It was really good for like clearing out big groups of enemies, but I found that this enemy was super strong in close quarters. So I could just swap out the build, change it all to a long range build and use some traps and things like that to slow it down, and then I cleared it easily. I love the ability to create these new builds and sort of base them on what I'm trying to do. And all of the descriptions for the abilities are super easy to understand. It's not like, you know, the Path of Exile talent tree, where there's like a million different talents and a lot of them are like plus 0.5% strength or something like that. Instead, these all make a lot of sense. It's very easy to understand and do. But let's get on to the cons, so some of the things that aren't so great about this. Obviously, the big one with the beta are the crashes and the performance hitches. It's been crashing quite a lot where you will just get kicked immediately back to a menu, which you can't get out of, so you have to restart the game, and that means heading back into the queues. Sometimes while you're playing as well, there's some weird performance hitches that feel like frame drops, but I don't think it's my PC. I think it's something to do with lag, because even if you're playing single player, you're always connected to a server. Now, this kind of makes sense because it's a beta. There's tons of people playing at once. I hope a lot of this will get sorted out. But it is always a bit of a worry. I've played plenty of betas before where people have been like, oh yeah, it's a beta, don't worry about it. But then the same things have happened at launch. I really, really hope this is sorted. The queues I can deal with. I don't mind joining a queue, then it saying, oh, you can't play for 40 minutes. That's fine by me. I get it. The servers are overloaded. Everyone wants to play. But what I don't want is to queue for 40 minutes, then for the queue to get to 0, and then the game to crash and me get kicked back to the beginning of the queue. Or to be able to play for like 5 minutes, and then for the game to crash and me be kicked back to the beginning of the queue. That's really annoying. I hope that gets fixed. Another thing that I'm not so fond of are the charges for ability resets. Now, this isn't much of an issue so far. I'm kind of being a bit, like, annoying here. But there is a gold charge for ability resets. When you're very low levels, it's free. And then when you're at the level I am right now, it's a tiny amount of gold. Like, it's less gold than you'll make by, like, killing 4 enemies. But I'm assuming this gold charge is going to keep increasing until it becomes something substantial. And I don't really understand why they've done it. To me, one of the best things about this game is changing my ability set, like I was talking about earlier, because I find a new piece of gear, or I come up against an enemy that I'm struggling against. I love being able to completely redo my build very quickly. The menus, the interface, and everything like that is so easy to let you do it. I want to be able to do that as much as possible. Like 3-4 times in one dungeon, I want to be able to change all of my abilities. But if that cost keeps on increasing and ends up being substantial, that's going to be kind of annoying. I don't want to be having to think, oh, actually, maybe I can't really afford to change them, so I'll just stick with what I've got. I'm not really sure why they've done this. I'm not sure if they want you to feel like your choices matter a bit more, maybe, or something like that. But I kind of wish they'd just encourage it and just take the cost away entirely and say, yeah, like, you change your abilities whenever you want. And I think that could be a change they could do fairly easily. If anyone has a good argument for why there is a charge for this, please let me know in the comments. Then the final thing I want to talk about, and probably the most worrying thing, the most negative thing I have to say about this game, is that the abilities on the rogue so far have felt a little bit underwhelming. I've only played as a rogue so far, but in terms of spectacle, it's just a little bit boring to use those different abilities. In gameplay terms, they all work fine. You know, you have crowd control abilities, you have single target abilities, you have abilities with a lot of movement involved, you have different status effects, all of that stuff absolutely fine. But they're just not that interesting compared to like Diablo 3. So the closest thing to a rogue in Diablo 3 was the Demon Hunter, and the Demon Hunter was setting up turrets and doing all of these crazy abilities, arrows raining down everywhere. It looked absolutely awesome. But with the rogue, I kind of feel like all of my attacks are either stabbing someone, firing an arrow at someone, or putting a trap down. And there's like kind of some variations on that. There's a couple where it's like, oh, I teleport, then stab someone, or I fire 5 arrows at once. But they don't look that interesting. Now, maybe the other classes will be better. Like, I can easily imagine the druid, the sorcerer, the necromancer. They're going to have some awesome looking abilities, I'm sure. And I'm going to try out all of the different classes across these beta weekends. But for the rogue, I just kind of wish there was a little bit more flair, a little bit more spectacle to them. And that's not a huge deal, like it's not a big deal. I'm sure some people will like it being a bit more grounded than Diablo 3 was, and that's absolutely fine. But when I think of Diablo, I think back to my days of playing Diablo 1 at high school, and just being absolutely amazed when I was playing as a wizard of the crazy things that I could do where I cast one spell and then chain lightning spreads out across an entire level and kills everything. That was amazing. I want that feeling back again. So, what do you think? Have you been enjoying Diablo? Do you like the look of it? Maybe you're someone who hasn't played it before and you're thinking about giving it a try. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And like I said, if you want to check out some more Diablo gameplay or just chat to me about what you think about the game and what you think about this video, come check out the live streams. I'm going to be streaming Diablo all weekend and next weekend. I can't wait to get back playing some more once I've uploaded this video. So hopefully I'll see you there. Goodbye.